few months ago, I had to cancel my favorite series on the channel, This Week in Surf. But since I've canceled the series, some of the most incredible things have happened. Achievements in Surf that signal the game is thriving. For years, it has been said that Surf is dead, and I'm here to show you why it's alive. On January 30th, Nate was the first and only to beat Pro Surf Bonus 4, one of the tightest and most technically demanding levels ever created. It most notably features spins, where the player must turn at a specific rate to avoid the floor, but the true difficulty lies in the barrage of head checks, areas where the ceiling permits no room for error, impossible weaves, where any contact or missed strafes would kill the run, and ends with a razor-thin angle and 4 consecutive head checks into the end. Taking 13 hours and 5,000 attempts, Nate has done what one surfer considered impossible. Earlier this month, Levi tried routing the bonus, using a practice tool called SaveLock that allows for testing and routing. And at the time, he said that the bonus was harder than Exonic Bonus 3, which for over a year has been considered the hardest existing surf level. It is, like Pro Surf Bonus 4, filled with horrible angles, spins, and head checks, and it has been beaten by only 2 surfers, Lemix and Roldar, neither of whom have beaten Pro Surf Bonus 4. Both levels are bonuses, extra levels to maps that are already extremely hard. Exonic, a long tier 7 out of 8 linear map, and Pro Surf, one of the most hyped and celebrated maps in recent years. Pro Surf was released by the legendary mapper HardX, each stage themed after the greatest surfers of all time and their corresponding favorite map. Stage 1 after MB Surfer and the classic Surf Summer. Stage 2, Manana and his favorites Wicked and Summit. Stage 3, the greatest of all time, Caffrey and Not So Quick. And Stage 4, the most challenging stage on the map, dedicated to Marble and the ancient surf Trania, and ending with a punishing weave and head check. Those capable of this feat were greeted with the final boss, the Levi stage, and Surf Goliath. But this map also featured 2 themed bonuses. Bonus 5, made by the renowned Spy Complex, capturing Louis Is My Name's technical style, and of course, Bonus 4, designed by Roldar himself in the theme of Surf Anubis, Tier 8. If Levi is correct that the difficulty of this bonus exceeds that of Exonic Bonus 3, then Nate has officially beaten the hardest level in Surf. But not the hardest world record. For the past 3 years, one map has captured public attention like no other. Cyberwave by Mr. Cow has been ground down to its absolute limit. A group of key surfers, Joshua, Emil, and Levi, all legendary surfers in their own right, brought the record down far below its 58-second barrier, to its lowest point in years. In addition to this, Cyberwave was one of the few maps featured in annual tournaments, meaning pro surfers spent hundreds of hours practicing the map in preparation. But after 4 years, a new name has been added to the roster. On January 18th, 2023, Koosh beat the world record on Surf Cyberwave by 0.01 before beating it again 5 hours later. It is on stage 2 that he defeats Joshua by 7/100th of a second. Despite such a small margin, due to the competitiveness of the record, Kooch may have achieved the world record of the year just days into January, solidifying his status as one of the game's greats, just as another surfer establishes his own. Lemix has risen to quick fame in the surf community due to a number of his recent records and his sublime smoothness. But this world record on Surf Summit shocked the community. You have to admit, you've played or seen this map before. With 65,000 completions across all servers, it is a competitive map. What's interesting is how Lemix got the record. Throughout the majority of the run, Lemix is behind, but only by a minor gap. At the very end of the run, something about Lemix's route is different. He has 10 extra units and a perfect board into the final room. If we compare the runs side by side, Lemix is notably higher on last ramp, and as a result he has to flick less and ends up with 50 units over his opponent. It appears that this saves Lemix just 0.04 seconds. The reason this record blew minds is because it was held by Levi. Levi is the master of perfection and unit maintenance, and taking a record off of him is no easy feat, especially on a record of this caliber. But not all of us can take records and beat the hardest maps. In the last 2 months, several innovative and groundbreaking maps have been released, starting with some controversy from the Russians. Tensor 2 by Superbike was published on January 5th, but wasn't showcased until January 30th by the Russian surf community. This map was intimidating to say the least, with tons of ramp strafes and technical boards. Reminiscent of the Hades series, notoriously difficult and brutalistic maps, as well as Superbike's previous map, Surf Tensor. But the most interesting component was the tier. The RSC claimed that the map was tier 8. 2 hard as hell stages supported this. Stage 4 with forced snapboards, a really hard way to board ramps, and huge gaps. And stage 8, lots of head checks, snapboards, and an enormous unit check at the end. If true, Tensor 2 is as difficult as Surf Corruption and Surf Anubis, the 2 hardest maps in the game. But many surfers, including established pros, were quick to contest the tier. They claimed that none of the individual stages were hard enough to warrant the highest tier, and instead dubbed it a tier 7. And just a few days after, KSF, the most competitive surf community in the world, released Tensor 2 onto their servers as a tier 7. Granted, there wasn't much fuss afterwards, as the RSC did note that Tensor 2 would be even harder on CSGO, with a lower tick rate and bigger model size, which means that it could be tier 7 on KSF and tier 8 on CSGO. But nevertheless, the first player to conquer the map on KSF was none other than Liquidator, followed shortly after by Nate and Levi. Yet, another map lies in wait, on par in difficulty. Surf Shibboleth by the acclaimed mapper PG was showcased on February 6. It has to be the most creative and unique tier 7 so far, featuring tons of new technical elements never seen before in the tier, as well as a pretty strange final stage, departing from the map's earlier style in favor of small ramps and low units. So far, only Liquidator and Vavzachan have beaten the map on harder 64-tick settings, but we'll have to wait until the map is released on KSF. And now, in maps you can actually try. Surf Outra by Maz. Maz is critically acclaimed for atmospheric and aesthetically stunning maps, his last released Fantasy winning a map contest. But Outra is much more like his prior release, Surf Embrace. Each new area has a different theme, some repeating, leading to a visually engaging experience, and most importantly, the detailing is clean, with little lines that cause the spines to pop. This is very important for perfect boards. The surf itself is reminiscent of older tier 4 linears and allows for several skips and routing strategies. While some users reported performance issues, the map was extremely well received, just as Quirky was. Quirky by Sam is a tier 1 linear that employs a new demanding feature. Tiny windows that give massive speed boosts, and larger holes that give less speed. As a consequence, the world record route is incredibly tight, with a basically impossible head hit at the end. It gives you the correct line to the last ramp, followed by 3 tough head checks. But the best thing about the map is that you don't have to use the smaller holes. If you're still learning, you can run the map normally and complete with ease. The map, quite short, only 30 seconds long, runs like a well-defined Trackmania map, which is probably why Tux holds the record. Speaking of top surfers, there have been a number of major developments at the top level. Kush, most notably, has taken 15 world records since January 1st, the most of his peers, and has been on an absolute tear. 274, another top surfer, gained 5 world records, and all these records came with a corresponding change in the ladder. Kush went from rank 9 to rank 6, 274 from rank 11 to rank 10, knocking out Chromalia, Manana went from rank 10 to rank 9, and the Russian beast Rosberg went from rank 22 to rank 15, passing some of the best surfers of all time. But the biggest reason why Surf is alive is it is blowing up on the internet. Surf in Warzone trends on Twitter and gets 337,000 views. This is due in large part to a player named Xeni who filmed the clip, but also Jake Lucky, who is spotlighting good movement gains to his 400,000 followers. This is the same reason why Darth Elmo blew up on Twitter, as his Apex Legends Kraber B-Hop video got 145,000 views. This is a game mode similar to Alt B-Hop, remade with 9,000 air accelerate and insane graphics. Also, Combat Surf in North America sees a potential resurgence, and a couple of servers reopen in Europe after previously closing. And some kid figured out how to surf with a wheel. Please do not try this at home. And of course, the CSGO update that killed all our servers. Some admins had to pull all-nighters to fix their pride and joy, and this made people on Discord and Twitter very angry. To offset this, some of the coolest surf content has hit the YouTube in the past few months. The Liquidator buffed series is simple. Raise the end platforms on already impossible levels, and then smash them. But he also included a surprise trick section. Zen 2 Stage 1 is already the hardest stage on the map, and Liquid reboards the first ramp at the cost of units for the flex factor, as well as a ton of other insane tricks. Batman, on the other hand, produced one of the chillest and most relaxing surf runs I've ever seen. Surf Epiphany by Hallington is already known for being very aesthetic, but what Batman is known for is his task runs. He designed his own tasking program that generates inputs automatically, so he never has to use a mouse and keyboard, making him unique from all other Surf and B-Hop taskers. And of course, the run is phenomenal. Flack the Cat is the first to beat Surf 666 with only one hand. That's a tier 6 unit map. He has to do all his button presses on the mouse and use his non-dominant hand. Forest, the Counter-Strike legend, beat 2 tier 5 linear maps, both pretty technical, Surf Hollow and Surf Edge. Here's the end of his run and his reaction.
New personal best.
Let's go, dude! Sick!
Then there were some pretty legendary meme videos by Paul. I think these were sick. They were all pretty funny if you know the references, but there was a bunch, so I can't show you them all. Adderall Method from our chat hits the first ever omnific completion while half sideways. This form of surf requires you to press 2 keys instead of 1 and skews your vision. It's not as severe as sideways surf or backward surf, but it's still pretty hard. Omnific is a 5-minute tier 6 linear, and Method is the only person to have completed the map in this style. Then there were 3 amazing events that spurred the community to action. HardX, remember him from earlier, ran a mapping contest with $100 to each winner. The top 3 submissions would be added as bonuses to Surf Pro Surf. He made an entire video with the results, with some incredibly innovative ideas. For example, House created a level with dynamic gravity, each box affecting your falling speed in different ways. But for all the other bonuses, Jazz Agent compiled them into a single not-so-pro surf. And of course, the best for last. A few months ago, I ran a surf battle royale called the Repster Surf Circuit, but I had to stop running it. And while I had no idea, Surf Heaven was able to turn it into a real game mode on huge 64-player servers. It ran multiple times in the past few weeks, it happens pretty much automatically, and it was so popular that it was hard to get into. It's still in testing last I heard, but as soon as it publicly releases, I'll make a whole video about it. So you should probably subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck sliding those triangles.